We finally have Nothing's first over-ear headphones here in our hands, the aptly named Headphone number 1. These cans promise to shake up the premium headphone space with a design that's unlike anything else on the market. But do these sound as good as they look? And more importantly, should you spend $300 on Nothing's first attempt at headphones when brands like Sony, Bose, and Apple are already dominating the product space? Now, the short answer is yes, but don't click away just yet, because there are some important things that you should be aware of that might be a deal breaker for some. So I mean, obviously at first glance, yeah, I mean the Nothing Headphone 1, these don't look like any headphones that I've ever seen or tested. It has these big square aluminum slabs topped with transparent plastic to show off some internal components, though honestly, most of what you're seeing here is just random parts and pieces that look cool rather than actual working components. To me, it kind of looks like a mismatch of classic Nintendo meets old school Sony Walkman hardware, and I'm here for it. While walking down the street wearing these headphones on my head, I gotta tell you, I got more curious looks and questions from passerbys than any other headphones I've worn out and about before. Nothing has definitely made something that stands out, but thankfully, it's not just for show, because the build quality here genuinely feels premium and solid. Despite being somewhat heavy in hand, I found them surprisingly comfortable to wear for hour-long sessions. The clamping force provides a nice secure fit without being too tight, and the memory foam ear cushions create a nice cozy seal that actually gets better over time as they conform to your head shape. You also get this nice cushioning inside the ear cups as well, so there won't be any plastic pieces poking through to poke you in the ear. You know, that was an issue we found with the Sony XM6. The only downside with this rectangular design, as you might have heard the mic picking up, is that they ding into each other. You know, the corners can easily collide when you're handling them, especially if you're wearing the headphones around your neck and you have the headband extended. You know, these clink into each other quite a lot. I definitely picked up a few dings during my testing, and I am a bit worried about cosmetic wear over time. So handle with care. Under the hood, you're getting 40mm dynamic drivers tuned in partnership with KEF, Bluetooth 5.3 with LDAQS support, and something we hardly ever see with over-ear headphones, an IP52 water resistance rating. Now, even having basic water resistance is going to be a pretty big deal to people wanting headphones that can withstand a workout or work up a sweat at the gym or getting caught in some light rain outside. Competitors like the Sony XM6, the Bose Quiet Comfort Ultra, even the AirPods Max, none of them offer any water protection rating whatsoever. So good job, Nothing. You also get a nice soft shell case included that does provide some decent protection. It's also got a few design elements that are familiar if you have used Nothing products in the past, such as this nice indentation for your thumb and the indentation along the top here to hold the case. These are the exact same design elements that you'll see on the Nothing earbuds case, for instance. Still, because these headphones can't fold up and only rotate to lay flat, it means they will retain their full size within the case during transport, taking up more room inside your bag. Onto controls. Now, this is one of my favorite parts because this is where Nothing really got creative. Instead of touch-sensitive surfaces that everyone else seems to be using, and personally that I find very finicky to use, Nothing went with physical controls that are straightforward, easy to use, and I love it. On the back of a right ear cup, there's this rubbery roller that you can swipe with your thumb to adjust the volume, complete with satisfying clicking sound effects as you do so. There's also a little paddle beneath that, which is a pretty unique little rocker switch that lets you skip tracks with quick presses, or you can hold it down to scrub through songs. Both of these buttons are pretty unique and very intuitive to use. There's also a small circular button on the outside of the ear cup that you can customize within the Nothing X app to trigger voice assistance, cycle through noise cancellation modes, or enable spatial audio. This is the only button of the three that is customizable, by the way. And better yet, you can assign a second function by holding down the button, giving you 2 quick access features without diving into an app menu. If you own a Nothing phone, you'll get even more exclusive perks like Nothing's Essential Space for voice notes, and even a channel hop function which allows you to switch between audio apps. The latter only works with the brand new Nothing Phone 3, which is a little bit of a bummer because that feature sounds really cool and I would have liked to have used it. But hey, here I am stuck with this little old Galaxy S25 phone. Everyone else is left out, right? If you don't have a Nothing Phone 3, good luck, you don't get to use it. Speaking of the Nothing X app, my favorite feature has to be the advanced 8-band custom equalizer. It lets you adjust both frequency and Q factor, and that's not something we often see in headphone apps. Each band gives you plus or minus 6 decibels of adjustment, but if you don't want to touch that, there's also a separate 5-level bass enhancer for an extra low end oomph. For less technical users, there are 4 EQ presets you can choose from, though honestly, I'd recommend skipping all of them. And if you want to know why, you can check out our dedicated article on SoundGuys.com. But at the very least, I would suggest you try your hand at the simpler tri-band equalizer to make some quick tweaks. Something cool too is that you can even generate QR codes to share your custom EQ profiles with other people. Now I know a lot of you are probably going to ask, hey, can you please share the QR code? Yes, we are currently working on a few QR codes, trying to get the tuning as close as we can to our house curve, and when that's ready, we're going to share it with all of you, so stay tuned for that article. The app also handles spatial audio with head tracking, though like most implementations of this feature, I found it worked best with movies and gaming rather than music. There's also a low latency mode for gaming to reduce audio delay, so that's appreciated as well. Curiously, there is no hearing test to create a custom sound profile like there was within the Nothing Ear app and even the same Nothing app that was used for the CMF Buds 2 Plus. I kind of miss this feature, and I think the tuning of these headphones could have really benefited from it, but more on that later. Okay, so connectivity is pretty straightforward. You get Bluetooth 5.3, dual device connection for switching between paired devices, and codec support for SBC, AAC, and LDAC. If you do have a compatible Android phone, I would definitely recommend using LDAC. In my usage, it sounded fantastic, whether listening at home or at the office. However, I did have some occasional dropouts while walking around downtown. And look at this, Nothing also includes a USB-C cable and a 3.5mm jack cable, both in the box, because you get 2 different wired listening options. You know, we sometimes see one or the other with premium competitors such as Apple, Sony, or Bose, but it's not often we see both wired connection methods in flagship headphones, so thank you Nothing, good job again. Okay, so in our standardized battery test, the Nothing Headphones 1 lasted 42 hours and 53 minutes with ANC enabled, surpassing Nothing's 35-hour claim. Now for context, that is significantly longer than, say, the Sony XM5, the Bose Quiet Comfort Ultra, and even the Apple AirPods Max, but it isn't quite as long as a couple others, the JBL Tour 1 M3 or the Sennheiser Momentum 4 Wireless, to name a few. Those have better battery life, but still for $300, that is a heck of a long battery life that you are getting. I mean, that's roughly a full work week of listening, if you're taking your legally mandated breaks that is, or about 1 month of hour-long commutes. Fast charging also provides 5 hours of playback from just 5 minutes of charging, which beats the competition pretty handedly. The 4 microphone array, which Nothing calls AI-powered clear voice technology, produces a pretty clean, intelligible speech, perfectly suitable for calls and video conferences. Wind noise and steady background sounds like, say, air conditioners or traffic are effectively suppressed, but the system does significantly struggle with echo and reverberation, particularly in rooms with a lot of hard surfaces. For example, my voice often sounded a bit boomy and distant while I was taking calls in my kitchen. If you want to hear for yourself, you can check out our full suite of mic test recordings in various different environments over on SoundGuys.com. Now, ANC. ANC is very good. The Nothing Headphone 1 delivered consistent ANC performance in our testing. One thing I really want to highlight is that unlike most ANC headphones, which tend to have a bump around 200 Hz that then tails off, the Nothing headphones don't have that deficiency. This is largely thanks to their excellent passive isolation, which when combined with ANC is able to achieve an impressive average total attenuation of 85% across all frequency ranges. Those scores put them right up on par with the Bose QC Ultra headphones and just a notch behind the Sony XM6 in terms of noise cancelling performance. The only caveat I would say is that I did find the ANC mic struggled a bit with very excessive wind during outdoor use, which is worth noting if you do plan to use these while walking or cycling outside. So, sound quality. So here's where things might get a little nitpicky or complicated. Our testing showed that the default balance EQ of the Nothing Headphone 1 had a very dark sound signature, meaning weak mids and very weak treble emphasis. Now don't get me wrong, I mean, these headphones sound good, they just don't sound great, at least right out of the box. Looking at our objective measurements, the frequency response shows the headphones track our target curve fairly well in the bass region, but underemphasize the mid-range by about 3 to 4 decibels, and do show consistent treble underemphasis across the entire upper frequency region. Listening to Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes, that iconic bass line was powerful without any distortion. Still, I quickly realized that the bass only seemed overemphasized because the headphones were actually lacking that treble to balance out the bass. Those weak mids can make vocals sound a bit dull, and the weak treble will make cymbals and hi-hats sound muted. For example, the drums in Sweet Child of Mine lack some of the brilliance and attack that really drive that track's energy. However, on the plus side, the instrument separation between the drums and guitars was really good and created a nice feeling of immersion. Thankfully, that comprehensive 8-band EQ I mentioned earlier does provide the tools needed to address these tuning issues, at least the issues that I had. With some adjustment, I was able to restore much of the vocal presence and instrumental clarity that I felt was lacking. Really having the ability to fine-tune both frequency and then the Q factor means that you can target those specific problems you have pretty precisely. But looking at our MDAQS results, according to Head Acoustics multidimensional audio quality scores, these headphones delivered an overall score of 4.1 out of 5. That places them in the good category overall for over-ear headphones. The Headphone 1 does best in timbre with a 4.4 rating, meaning instruments and voices should sound natural, at least to most people and most untrained listeners. The immersiveness score of 3.9 indicates good spatial positioning, while the distortion score of 3.5 is the weakest link. While a score of 3.5 is still in fair territory for distortion, I will say that bass lines can start to sound a little bit rough at higher volumes. The Nothing Headphone 1 is a bold first step into the over-ear market, and for the most part, it sticks the landing. The retro-futuristic design will turn heads, while practical features like IP52 water resistance, tactile controls, and excellent battery life give it some real-world value. Add in robust ANC performance and that feature-rich companion app, and you've got a package that competes with Sony, Bose, and Apple in many areas for only $300. I mean, that's $150 less than the Sony XM6. However, and this can be a big however, the default sound signature does require some EQ tinkering to really bring out the best sound quality from these headphones. Now that might disappoint people who just want to take their headphones out of the box and looking for a plug and play experience in that way, but I promise you, if you put in the time to tinker, you will be rewarded. Nothing made something different, not just on the surface, but for the value and the specs and the performance. This is something different. It brings fresh ideas to a product category that was frankly starting to feel a bit stale. If you want to see how these headphones compare to other headphones we've tested, you can head over to SoundGuys.com to check out our full review. Or if you're looking for earbuds instead, hey, Nothing's got a lot of those too. You can check out our review of the Nothing Ear and the CMF Buds 2 series from Nothing sub-brand right here and right here.